Phase Zero, Season 4, Episode 33. I'm Jenna Anderson, and I'm joined today by Jamie Jurack.
Oh boy, good morning, folks.
And Aaron Perrine.
What's going on, everybody? Good morning.
And before we get started with the official show, we are going to talk news. We are going to talk Marvel. We're going to try to keep it lighthearted and deliver the type of show that we're used to delivering. But before we get started, we obviously want to address the news of this week. As of last week, Brandon no longer works at Comic Book and will no longer be hosting Phase Zero with us. We will let him be the one to share specifics on his social media, but we can say that he did not want to leave. And I will let him elaborate in terms of all of that. He wanted to stay on the show, and we are very sad to see him go. There are really no words to describe how we have been feeling over the past week. This show would not exist if Brandon hadn't made it into a reality back when WandaVision happened. And I know I speak for Aaron and I speak for Jamie when I say we have been so lucky to make this show what it is along with him. And the friendship that we have formed through the show and the memories that we have made together are not going to go away. We are all still going to be in each other's lives, even if we aren't seeing each other every Wednesday to record this show. This show will not feel the same without Brandon, and there is no replacing him, but we want to do right by him and by you, our community, in keeping the show going. And I just want to thank everyone who was patient and worried about us over the past week. I know it was kind of scary not hearing us tweet about certain things. I'm thankful that everyone let us get to the point that we're at now. This is going to be new for all of us, and we don't have the answers for everything, but I really hope that you guys just trust us enough to join us on this journey, because we are so proud of this show and of the community that we've created. And I know Aaron and Jamie agree.
Yeah, Jamie, you want to go?
Neither. We're both trying to pass the buck. I'll go. First of all, Jenna, thank you. That was great. This is not easy to do. I want to shout out everybody, first of all, who reached out, because I ignored a lot of you just because I didn't know what to say until we got to this point. And I will tell you right now, the only reason I am not in full-blown anger Jamie rant mode is because BD truly wants us to keep doing this show. I would not be here today doing this episode if I had not spoken to BD multiple times about how important it is to him that this show continues. And let me tell you, we know this sucks. This sucks, you guys. There's no other way to put it. And like Jenna said, this wasn't BD's choice, and it is up to BD to elaborate on that. But it is really frustrating to see this happen instantly. We've been really on edge. We've been nervous. You get sold, and it's scary. In the 6 years I've been at Comic Book, this is the first time I've ever felt unsafe in my job, and that really, it's a bummer. And it's also a bummer that what really breaks my heart is that the four of us, it took us a long time to get to this point. The four of us, I've been on Phase Zero since day one. I didn't know Brandon at all. I'd spoken to him 3 times that day. And then we cut to 4 years later. The four of us are good friends. We're close. And the idea of doing this without him, it's just, and I keep joking, it's like the Stones without Jagger. But I really think that I know the three of us can do a good show. It's going to be the same show in terms of what the kind of content we put out, the news that we share, the people we interview. But it's Brandon created the show. The show is his baby, and it genuinely angers me that due to how corporations work, it's basically taken from him. He doesn't own it, and that breaks my heart. Like I said, if it wasn't for BD's blessing, this would be the Jamie rant to end all Jamie rants, and I'm reining it in very, very deeply.
We appreciate that you are. Trust me. To Jamie's point, anyone who reached out, anyone who tagged us, anyone who was concerned, we saw your messages and we really appreciate them. And we get that there's a lot of emotions on the outside of it too, and especially not knowing fully the extent of the situation. I get how that can be scary, but again, we just want to honor this community, honor BD. BD gave us his blessing. He wants the show to succeed. The fact that we got to the point to have a Comic-Con panel and all of that would not be without BD, but it's also because of all of us, and BD wants that to still thrive. So Aaron, I'll let you go before I start crying again.
You take all the time you need, Jenna. Jenna's been like a rock for all of us in the wake of all of this change. I spent more time on the phone with my friends these last 2-3 weeks than I have probably my entire time of working at Comic Book. it is a shock, and we are clear all still not over it. I want to talk about Brandon Davis for a second, though. BD stands for like a lot of things I really love, like about this community, right? He's a positive force here at Comic Book. He worked hard, came to all of you with the movies and TV shows that you loved. He adored Phase Zero, and he really brought all of us together too. And I can't thank BD enough for that. 4 years ago, as we all know, like the world was in like a very different place. Like a lot of you were probably scared, just like I was. And instead of worrying about the next scrape the Avengers would get into, I was concerned for my like then girlfriend, my mother, my father, my friends. And then in 2021, I got a DM that would change, my life and my time at Comic Book forever. And BD had never really spoken to me in a real long-winded way before coming on the show. And he read a piece I wrote for Falcon Winter Soldier and made the reached out and was like, could you come on? And I guess I did okay because I'm still here. A lot of people going around D23 and Comic-Con with him is like so interesting, and with all of us is interesting because you get stopped by a lot of people. You really get a feel for how much you've like affected people's days. A lot of you out there listening reached out last week in the stories with funny moments for the show, little icky jokes, croaky jokes, all sorts of other stuff, and just instances from like your personal lives. And like that stuff really stuck with me. You got like soldiers, their wives, like retail workers, executives, construction workers, students, like everybody's dogs. All of us come together like once a week or twice a week now to celebrate what we love, right? Like we love Marvel, we love the MCU. And the world outside has been very hard. And I don't take for granted that Phase Zero has given all something to come forward around and really celebrate and enjoy in weeks and days and months that have not been easy. It feels like we've all been through like 5 or 6 once in a generation tests after another over the last 4 years, and remaining positive and being able to do this show with my friends and being able to resist the temptation from outside this weird little YouTube window or podcast episode, I guess, if you're listening and you're driving, is really important to me. It's like real resiliency. People in these comments build each other up. They like know each other from outside. There was like a Disneyland meetup for some of the earliest fans a couple of years ago that blew my mind. Like, man, that's crazy. Like just because we did a show. So you guys are here right now. We're here right now. Despite a couple weeks, we're still together. And I think that matters. Like Jamie, Jenna, and I are really excited about the future. We're excited to put on a great show for you. We're stoked to cover all the shows that are coming up in the fall into next year. And BD told us that like Phase Zero like rolls on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build each other up. We're going to laugh at each other's jokes if they're funny. And we're going to have a good time.
Oh, see, I'll take over real quick because I'm just because I'm not a crier, so I'm keeping us together. It's okay. See, because I get angry. I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like I see two of my favorite people in the world crying, and it makes me want to Hulk out in a big way.
Jamie, if I need to rein you in, I can rein you in. I'm able to talk now through the crying. Aaron, that was beautiful, and that was so well said. I know there's a lot we could still say about this. Like Aaron said, we have all been on the phone with each other basically every single day over the past week. And I know there's a lot we can say about this, but is there anything anyone would like to say before we just take a beat and try to keep the show going?
I just want to reiterate that everything Aaron said in terms of the fact that Brandon is one of the best people I've ever worked with. He shares, I have things coming up that I still can't talk about that I only did because he gave them to me. He wanted me to do them. I would never have been asked to do this X-Men panel over the weekend if it wasn't for BD constantly championing us. I'm just the thought that I don't have a scheduled time to chat with him twice a week breaks my heart.
Absolutely. And he has told me he will still support us, give us advice. I know he's watching. He's probably on a plane right now, but I know he's going to be watching this show as soon as he can, and is still championing us. And that is, like, again, we are all still going to be best friends in all of this. Like, that is never changing. We are bonded for life because of this show, and I'm so glad that everyone else could join us for it. So,
Yeah.
Aaron, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No. Geez, Luis. I don't know. It's like we're gonna be better, y'all. But
We are.
I just I need a second.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
I keep joking, you guys. We're a weirdo podcast now. Brandon was like the normal one. Petey was the normal one. Like you guys. This is just a bunch of weirdos. So get ready.
I will say Patrick in the comments has a good question, and this was something I thought about in the week. Is the Venom Horse Pact still intact? We will find out how Beatty thinks of Venom, and we will figure something out, because I did think about that amid all of the emotions of the past week, and I was kind of sad about that, but we will find a way to make that work. So absolutely.
If Venom is that good, we've got more shocking days ahead of us.
Oh,
yes,
God,
absolutely.
Man.
Oh my gosh. I will say I'm heartbroken Brandon will not be on our Craven episode now, like legitimately heartbroken that we are at that point, because that would have been a reaction for the ages, definitely. But yeah, thank you. The comments are blowing up. I can't even read them fast enough. Everyone is just being so sweet, and that is extremely, extremely appreciated. We are going to take a quick 1-minute break, try to compose ourselves, try to stop crying a little bit, and then we do have a show to deliver you. We have news to talk about. We're going to talk about Robert Downey Jr. We're going to talk about Jamie hosted an X-Men 97 Q&A. We're going to talk about that and so many other things. So please stay tuned. Welcome back to Phase Zero. Thank you guys so much for joining us this episode. If you are just dropping in, emotions are high today, but we are going to still try to deliver a really good show. We do have a week worth of Marvel news to talk about, starting with Robert Downey Jr., the man of the moment, given everything with Marvel between Dr. Doom and now, as they revealed at D23, he's coming back for an Avengers campus ride as Tony Stark. And so he was on the Hollywood Reporter's Awards Chatter podcast, and he talked about how those returns kind of came about. I truncated down these quotes because they were very long. He yapped. He had a lot to say. But he did say that he still kept in touch with Kevin Feige, Jon Favreau, and the Russo brothers. And about a year ago, he says, quote, "I had this instinct that I wanted to go to Bob Iger, and I had an idea outside of the cinematic universe for how I could be of service to what's going on in the parks and all their location-based energy. And Susan, his wife, and I were sitting down with Kevin Feige at one point, and he said, it just keeps occurring to me that if you were to come back, and Susan was like, wait, come back as what? And then we both realized just over time that this was another thing that just disproves any doubt anyone could ever have about Kevin Feige. He's a very sophisticated, creative thinker about how can we not go backwards? How can we not disappoint expectations? How can we continue to beat expectations?" And he brought up Victor Von Doom, and I looked into the character and I was like, wow. And later on he goes, let's get Victor Von Doom right. Let's get that right. Downey then said that he went to Bob Iger's house. Bob Iger, friend of the show, by the way. We still are going to keep that bit going because that's never going to die. It is still funny and wild to me. And I will cherish that moment even more now. But so they went to Iger's house, and then Iger invited him and Feige to the Imagineering campus, where it seemed like they were developing stuff with rides. And he said, "What is going on there right now is so beyond my expectation of what was possible. No wonder it was numinous to me. It's also the only way that I felt like I can give a certain entertainment-seeking audience something that they may have a hankering to continue to have an experience of, in a way where I can continue to develop my interest in the future of entertainment. Where the hell else should you go back there?" So it's this crazy, weird thing that's going on. And if it all goes to blank, we'll just remake what many people say is the greatest film of all time. So now we have a bit more insight into how that happened. Knowing that like the conversation started a year ago is kind of crazy. I know people have had a lot to say about the let's not go backwards, let's go forwards, and then casting Downey. But what do you guys think about it?
It's so I didn't get to the bottom of the quote. The joke about just redoing Endgame again is very, very, very funny.
Yeah.
Also, it shows you how far ahead in time people plan this stuff. This is years of stuff going on behind the scenes that you would never have known about until he walks out there on the stage, and now we know it's been planted over time. Also, just how long the park stuff has been in the works too, because apparently they've been planning whatever's been going on for more than a year. So thank you, Epic Universe, for lighting a fire on everybody and getting it so we can get more Avengers Campus, but yeah, we don't know if they're going to get it right until we actually have a movie. So
yeah,
I hope that they really did think this through, because the reactions were all over the place online and then amazing in the room. Jamie?
Yeah. I'm really hung up on, we got to go over to Bob's house. See what Bob has to say. Like, I know Bob's friend to the show, but I don't think that like the creative decisions are, he's not the number one. That's like, what? You got to go to Bob? You got to get Bob's approval? But I think that's really funny. Like, let's get in the car. That's like me being like, Aaron, I'm coming over real quick. See ya in an hour.
Yeah.
It was really far from me. Yeah, I feel the same way about this as I have felt the whole time, which is I do feel like it's a choice made out of fear, not creativity, but I also am sure RDJ will crush it. And like Aaron said, we'll know when we have a movie. Like, it's one of those things where I'm at a point of neutrality where it's like, I'm not mad about it, but I'm not excited about it. I'll wait and see what they give me, what old Bob has to say.
I also thought for a second, because of the way the pictures were at the parks panel and stuff, I was like, is this big ride prototype in Bob's backyard? Is that how this works? And they're like, oh, it's at the Imagineering campus. I'm like, okay. I was so confused. Like, wait, what? I mean,
he just like, that's his outdoor furniture, is just you sit in some sort of like very confidential park ride that does not exist yet. Also, Tom N in the chat says RDJ is officially a guest of Phase Zero, and I love that. That is great. We're just gonna keep the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon just going ad nauseum at this point. I love it. Yeah, it's like the Bob's house of it all is extremely funny. It's so interesting to know the inside baseball of it. Even then, I'm sure Joanna Robinson and company in 5 or 10 years time will give us even more insight into the inside baseball of it. But it's interesting to hear Downey's perspective when all he had done previously was just like tweet the Dr. Doom mask and like post a picture on Instagram. So
yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, nothing makes sense.
Speaking of Avengers 5.
Oh, and Avengers 5
segue.
Not making sense, or things going crazy. We got Simu Liu giving an update on Shang-Chi 2. Press Trust India caught up with him for Jackpot, which is a minor Shang-Chi reunion with Awkwafina and a Barbie reunion between him and John Cena. They asked about where's Shang-Chi 2? Like, they asked what they heard. I don't know who asked the question, but good job. And he said, a lot of it is above my pay grade, but it's definitely happening. So I'm just very excited to kind of work on it, and it's going to be amazing. And I can't really say anything beyond that. And then buddy of mine, Livy Scott from Inverse, reported that Shang-Chi was supposed to have a prominent role in Destin Daniel Cretton's version of Avengers 5. It's unclear how that role will change now the movie has become Doomsday. I mean, he's still going to be in it, I'd imagine. I don't know how much. Like, this is the funny thing of what's going on. I know Jenna could talk about this a lot, but we're going to get so many this is what was going to happen in the movies from people now, because we can't really prove whether or not it was actually going to happen in the movie. But what do you guys think about Shang-Chi 2? What do you think? Is he going to be one of the main characters in Doomsday?
I mean, of course he was going to be a main part of the original story when Destin was the one directing it, right? Like, if you're getting the Shang-Chi director up in Avengers, it's for a reason, but that was a different movie. That was a movie where Kang's name was in the title. So, but I still think he's going to be in it. Whether or not he's the, leading up the Avengers, who can say? There's, like you said, it's all speculation at this point, but none of this is surprising. But don't forget, we always have him in Marvel Zombies.
That is true. That show does exist. We did see footage at D23 during BD's panel, and we do know it exists, and it is going to arrive, even though we kept forgetting that it existed. Yeah, to Aaron's point, first of all, like you said, of like the things that we're going to learn that may or may not have happened, and like it's giving the DCEU in a lot of ways of like, well, this movie was supposedly in development. We never found out anything one way or another of what it was going to look like. So you can say anything was true and anything was the plot of a movie, and we won't know. I feel like it's interesting now that it's shifted from Destin to the Russos. I'm very curious to see if the cast is going to be, how much of it is going to be screen time for actors that they've already maybe worked with on Endgame, or like entirely new people. And it's also with someone like Shang-Chi, outside of Marvel Zombies, general audiences won't have remembered really that they've seen him, because his movie will have been 3 or 4 years at this point. Who knows? He can maybe cameo in something else between now and Doomsday, but we have no idea. I think he's in the movie. It's just I would be surprised if he still is like as much of a core player as he was going to be in Dustin's version of the movie.
Man, you're blowing my mind with the in-game people get priority and coming back and getting focused. That would be really wild too. Like, extremely what's going on here.
Like, I'm not even necessarily saying like the OG6 Avengers, but like I wouldn't be surprised if like either version of the movie, especially given how Destin works with Brie Larson, I feel like Carol was going to be a huge part of either version of the movie, but I think her having worked with the Russos definitely doesn't hurt. And I don't know, like we don't know what the Avengers look like. We don't know what this roster that Cat 4 is supposedly going to dive into. It's something we're just going to have to wait and see, but it'll be interesting to see like how screen time gets divided, and also just purely scheduling. Like a lot of this to me breaks down to like, how are they going to get everybody in the same room or in the same green screen as they need to in order to make this movie at the timeline that they need?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Only person I know is just Benedict Cumberbatch standing in a room like Will Smith, looking around with an empty carpet, with the only carpet in there. That's it. He's the only person confirmed to be in the movie, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Him and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, him and Downey. They're just playing Fortnite. They're just playing the new season of Fortnite for like 3 hours. That's the entire movie.
It's a Sherlock multiverse movie. That's the real twist.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And 2012 Tumblr is just lit ablaze. They helped the movie make like $3 billion at the box office. Yeah. I feel like we won't know. We're gonna start knowing probably sooner than later what the cast of this movie looks like, but it was interesting to kind of get Simu's perspective on the whole situation. But yeah, shifting to other teams in the Marvel multiverse, Jamie hosted a Q&A for X-Men 97, as we mentioned in the first part of the show. Let's talk about it. What was it like? Where was it? Who did you get to talk to? All of that.
It was so much fun. It was through American Cinematheque, and it was at the Aero Theater. A great crowd, which honestly made me so happy that because they did the entire show starting from 10 a.m. They showed the whole thing, and wow. I was like, heck yeah, these people sitting through this. If I wasn't moderating it, I would have sat through it because I binged it all the night before to prepare myself, but it was great. It was the panel was Brad Winderbaum, Jay Castorina, and Emmy Emmett Unamara. And first of all, the three of them just great, so awesome. And Aaron was there, my support system. Aaron, also like in the front row, like Amy Poehler and Mean Girls, taking all my photos. And what was really cool about it though is just getting to hang out with them beforehand, and because we have always talked about like Brad and BD have spent so much time together, and it was great to finally meet Brad Winderbaum because I felt like I know the man, and but the actual panel was great. They talked about a lot of cool stuff, but the big news is that they dropped that there are going to be 2 other X teams in season too. That was kind of the big quote of the thing. Because when you're doing a panel, you're not trying to get scoops. I'm not here interviewing you on behalf of comicbook.com. I'm just trying to inform the audience. But we still got some scoops. So that was pretty cool. And we talked about the D23 footage, because I don't know if you guys know, but I was at D23 last weekend, and we saw some very cool stuff at the animation panel that Brandon hosted. So great. We think that's somebody you'd want to keep around. But it was really cool. That was kind of the big news. Aaron, was there anything that as an audience member?
There was a couple people in there who had literally never seen all of X-Men 97 and did it
Wow.
all in the morning beforehand.
Oh.
And I can't imagine how much like endorphin rush that must have been to go through all of it and then end on Tolerance's Extinction. That was wild. So that was cool, of course. It was funny too, because I think when the Polaris question came up, like everybody was like on stage was looking at Brad like, what am I allowed to say? What is the line? Jake was like, can I say it? And then Brad was like, knock yourself out, go nuts. And I was like, oh man, you're in danger, don't do it. Kevin's up in the rafters right now like waiting for you to say something you're not supposed to say. But yeah, that was good. I think I'm trying to think of like what other fun stuff. Oh, we talked about it being the year Gambit. That made me laugh too.
Yes. I asked them if there were any Easter eggs that no one's noticed before. And apparently Bobby is on Geonosia serving ice cream to kids, and like no one's clocked that yet. Did you clock that, Jenna?
If I did, I forgot, because there's been so much that has happened since we saw those episodes for the first time, but that's adorable. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was excited about Polaris, and Brad was like, well, she is in season 1. I'm like, yeah, in the background. That doesn't count. The trailer we saw makes she's going to be in it. I also, don't worry, I did let everyone know that we want to see Scarlet Witch in the show. I made sure to put that out there.
I love it. I will say with the two X teams of it all, because people are already in the chat speculating about what it could be, I feel like X Factor is probably a safe guarantee. And then I am just clowning for Generation X at this point, because it's like we know Emma's alive. We know like Jubilee and all of them are stuck on Earth while the other teams are kind of scattered to the wind. I would love if we get like the Generation X kind of roster. As I said in our like underrated Marvel movie episode, I love that TV movie so much. It would be fun to see like a modern version of that. But yeah, I'm so happy that Jamie got to host it. I'm so sad I couldn't be there. I was cheering you on from Chicago. And I'm so glad that it sounded like it was such a great time. And so then just to wrap things up for this segment, another thing about Marvel animation that's very cool. So Cohorty from What If is going to make her debut in the comics. And we have a look at her cover for the one shot that she will appear in if you haven't seen it yet. So it's called Cohorty, Reshaper of Worlds #1. It's written by Ryan Little, who helped co-create the character on What If, and Hani David and Kelly Lynn D'Angelo, with art by David Cutler, Jim Terry, and more. And the synopsis of it says, chasing a threat out of the sky world, she lands in the fiery streets of Hell's Kitchen, but culture shock's going to be the least of her problems as her strange adversary tears through New York City. Featuring exciting guest stars and the comic debuts of some extraordinary creators, Marvel's Voices brings you an extra special anthology celebrating Indigenous heritage and one of the most exciting characters to emerge from the MCU. And so this will be released on November 6th. I'm super excited for this. I always love when characters who originate somewhere else then make their way into the comics. Again, I championed for Madison to make it in the comics, and she technically did, even though we didn't get to see her. So I love when this happens, and Cohorty is definitely a character who deserves it. How do y'all feel about it?
I think it's really cool. Like you said, like going from animation to comics. I mean, that's how we got Harley Quinn, one of the current like most famous characters that there is. So I think this is really neat. I'll be interested to hear your review, Jenna.
I laughed because it took Darcy like a whole entire saga of the MCU to get into like and Corey's like, move over, I'm here. Which is great. It's gonna be really fun. Of course the Hell's Kitchen thing, people are speculating on what that could mean. I was like, oh boy. Echo season 2 would have been lit. That would have been dope if we could get a little bit of that action going on, you know. I mean, shoot, Kamala Khan's dad is in freaking Daredevil, so why not? Just shove everybody in there. It's a gajillion episodes, apparently. But very happy to see. So also some creators that haven't gotten a shot to write books and try to, you know, establish some lore for a character that basically, except for one What If episode, is kind of a blank slate, which is kind of amazing too, right?
Yeah. I will say now I'm imagining like her showing up in Born Again season 2 or whatever and like helping like the battle against Fisk. And it's like she would overpower everybody. It's like, okay, she just needs to deliver like one punch and Fisk is gone. And that's all they need. Like that would actually be kind of cool to fold her into kind of the street level section of the MCU. That would be really cool. Again, we're all speculating, like who knows what the future holds. I know everyone really would love to see Cohorty in live action. And I feel like it probably will happen at some point or another. That would just be like the wildest context for it. But yeah, I will definitely read the comic and share my thoughts on the show once it comes out in November, because that is just a cool thing to get to see. But yeah, sorry, we're going to take another 1-minute break. And when we come back, we have some Spider-Verse news, some Fantastic Four news, and Glen Powell potentially joining the MCU. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Phase Zero. We are in Phase 3 of today's show, and we're going to start off with some Spider-Verse news that started coming up earlier this week. Jamie, take it away.
Yeah, so some rumors are flying around, according to Puck, that Lord and Miller are reportedly done at Sony. The rumors suggest that they had issues over Spider-Noir's budget, and there's also a rumor that they were going to reboot Spider-Man for TV. So let's just like one thing at a time. Losing Lord and Miller is that's, if that's true, that sucks. I mean, we can all agree that Spider-Verse is one of the best things that's come out of anything Sony, I guess. It's Sony's prize. We sure know that. And the noir budget is interesting. I wonder, like, did they want to spend more? I mean, you know, I don't know how much they're paying Cage over there, but you know, well, I have no idea. And then but the Spider-Man reboot TV show, I'm like confused about. Like, what does that mean? So what do you both think?
The reboot thing was just from the article, so I was just pulling that. But yeah, that just felt like worth mentioning because that is kind of crazy. I agree with you. It is this thing, like Aaron and I were talking about this yesterday. I do feel like Spider-Verse has become such a massive collaboration at this point. Like Lord and Miller got their foot in the door. They got these movies started. And I do think like it sucks if their deal does fall through. But luckily, like there are a lot of other creators on board who have helped make the movies into like what they are, as evident by the whole thing with the animation crunch time for the second one. It's crazy to think of like the third one would be probably out on digital by this point if they had kept their original release date. And it's like now we have absolutely no idea when that movie's coming out. And so I'm glad that the animators are getting time to make the movie into what it should be. The noir thing is really interesting to me because I agree with you. I feel like Nicolas Cage is not cheap. Like I feel like getting him to do TV is also probably going to require a lot of money. I feel like a dump truck full of money is being backed up to his house right now. But even then, on top of that, it is going to probably be a very visually ambitious show. Like I'm assuming it's going to be shot in black and white. I'm assuming they're going to like go overboard in terms of doing the kind of classic noir 1930s aesthetic for the rest of the show. And that's not cheap. So I don't know which side they would have fallen on in this whole debate, but I'm not surprised that conversation's starting.
It's so interesting to read this stuff because me and Jenna like talked a little bit about this, like how like the Lord and Miller like career arc, and it is like way more strange than you would probably think because there's some things that people really didn't take to in the same way, and then there's like the Spider-Verse movies and like Mitchell vs. the Machines and the Lego Movie and stuff where people just love everything about those. So Also, I don't know what the Sony TV Spider-Verse is without them as like a pacifying force for the fan base, because like whenever they're involved, people are like, well, we're at least going to give it the benefit of the doubt because Spider-Verse was so good. Without them, like, what is any of this past noir? And the rebooting Spider-Man in the TV show, were we looking down the barrel of a situation where that Spider-Man was going to be the one that fought Venom and all this other stuff because they couldn't use the other one? Like, I have so many questions. Like, you know, like, were they going to do the wildest thing I could imagine and reboot the Spider-Man for TV, but have it be Miles, and that's where Miles would be? Because that would be like, oh my God, no. Why would you do that? So I don't know. I can tell you this, they ain't going to be unemployed for long if you let them go. No. There's other studios that would be like, come over here and do whatever you want. Yeah. You know?
To your point about noir and about just like the Spider-Verse on TV, I don't even feel confident calling it a Spider-Verse at this moment because it's just one show. It's like Silk was in development for several years and ultimately still has not panned out and is now not at Amazon. So it's like if it even comes to fruition, it's going to be a co-production at another network. This is just it's giving a lot of DC television in the past of like, here's Titans over on TNT and then it goes to DC Universe and all of this stuff, but it's completely separate from the Arrowverse and all of that. And so I don't even feel like it's really a universe at this point, but I agree with you that I feel like if there were to make it a universe, having Lord and Miller in those discussions in the development process definitely helps them a lot.
Yeah, I forgot Silk doesn't exist, so yeah, it is one show.
Yeah,
like, oh man, the pile of like, as much as people go, oh my God, they're canceling so much over Marvel, the graveyard over there at the Sony Spider-Man universe is wide and deep. It's not ideal.
El Muerto sweep.
El Muerto sweep. Okay, so let's talk about something that's going to happen and coming up then. Yes. Let's talk about Fantastic Four. Matt Shakman talked to Inverse about his journey with Marvel's First Family, and he said that he's not really looking at the movies for inspiration. He's looking more towards the comics. So Jenna, we got to get up on reading apparently, because our Chris Evans knowledge fostered by earlier this year is not going to help. Shakman said, I'm not so much looking at the other movies. I'm looking at the comics themselves. I'm a huge comic book fan. I've been a big fan of the Fantastic Four since I was a kid. So going back to Kirby and Lee and Byrne and following all the way up to what's happening, certainly Hickman and Wade and Ryan North, what he's been doing, I'm trying to figure out who these characters are to me and how to bring them to life in the best possible way. And that's really where I've started and how we've approached it. So yeah, that's pretty wild that he's like, we're just going to start here from this. So we'll worry about other cinematic depictions of these characters later. What do you think of him looking towards, especially the early comics, as inspiration first?
Having now seen the footage in two separate rooms to the point where I was such a dork, I was literally like quoting part of the lines when it played at D23 because I still had it burned into my memory from, and like everyone else still around me was just quietly watching, and I'm just over here like, hee hee. I love that the touchstone is the comics. You can tell from seeing the footage that it's visually completely unlike anything else that we've seen for adapting the team before. Even the animated series have never even gotten this close to the aesthetic of it all. And so I love that that is the touchstone. I think it makes sense to just have that be your frame of reference and not the 3-4, if you count Roger Corman, previous movies, because it's a new way to introduce the team. And it's so rich. There's so much rich text in the comics. And even when he's mentioning the Ryan North comics that are still ongoing, that shows me that you really, really care. I feel like the last creator that I remember hearing this was like James Gunn said this was Suicide Squad. He read every single Suicide Squad comic he could possibly find, and that all influenced the movie that we ultimately got. So I love hearing this so much. I've been trying to reread or read Fantastic Four from the beginning. I've kind of gotten a little behind on it given the events of the past week, but my plan is to definitely do that before the movie comes out. So I love hearing that that's also where Matt Shakman's research is.
I mean, if Marvel was like, hey, Jamie, direct a movie about this comic character, heck yeah, I would read every single comic that's ever featured that character. Like that, that should be 101. And genuinely, I don't think it is. I don't think everyone does that. And no. Based on the aesthetic, I've seen blurry pictures of the screens. I think that's a smart way to go, especially you're setting this thing in the 60s, we think, probably, that's confirmed.
There's no way it's not. It would be funny if it's not the 60s and it just looks like that. Like that would be wild.
I mean, Legion was set in present day and just had a
That
60s
is true.
aesthetic, so you never know. But honestly, obviously, I trust the man that directed WandaVision. Come on.
Jamie's just like, say less. I'm already
Yeah.
in. Like, there's nothing else you can do at this point. I also like it. And people are like, what about a reading list? I'll figure out something once the dust settles a little bit. Literally, like, you can just find Fantastic Four reading orders. But I will say, starting with the Lee and Kirby comics are the way to go. Like, there's a reason why those are so iconic. And there's a reason why they haven't really been adapted properly on screen. But I have confidence that Matt Jackman will do it. But yeah. So speaking of other adaptations and reactions to certain things.
Oh, great segue. Logan co-writer Michael Green had a reaction to Deadpool and Wolverine's opening scene. You know the one I'm talking about. He spoke to IGN and said, people had warned me ahead of time. I don't know how you're going to feel about the opening of Deadpool and Wolverine. And I'm like, I think I know what's going to happen. And I did not know. I didn't know they were going to go that far. You weren't meant to take seriously that they were there, like digging him up and that it's really him. It felt less like they were trying to change the ending of Logan as they were contending with not feeling that they wanted to make a movie as good as they felt Logan was, which was a huge compliment. I felt like it was nothing but complimentary. And then he added, that movie's such a good time. I mean, when we saw it in a full theater, people went bananas to everything. It's great. It's a great franchise. Like, more, please. You know what I appreciate even more was no Green Lantern jokes because I was partly responsible. You got to wear it as a badge of honor. I love these quotes. I've just read them for the first time and I really enjoyed them because, first of all, if you're getting mad about the opening of Deadpool Wolverine and saying it like ruins Logan, I just don't think you have like comprehension skills. Like, right? Like people who are like bringing back Hugh Jackman and RDJ ruins those. No, they're actors. That's not what a character death is. Like, to me, when people are upset about that, it says they care more about the actor than they do about the character, and that's not what should happen. And so this guy, this writer has got the right attitude. He's clearly had a good time. I love that. I love that Green Lantern joke. I just watched Green Lantern finally for the first time.
Yay! I want to know what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't good, but it also wasn't as bad as I expected. Like, I think it's better than Origins. I'll tell you that right now. Personally, I do. But either way, I think that this was a fun answer. And like, why would you take that too seriously? I don't know. You can't ruin Logan. You can't touch that. You know what I mean?
I love Michael Green. Like, everything he has written has just been absolutely wonderful. It's like if he's attached to a project, I'm like more enthused to check that out, with a couple exceptions. But like he has a really great filmography, and it just seems like he has a great perspective on all of this. And I agree with you. Like, even watching the movie for the first time, getting through that sequence, I was like, oh no. Like, is this going to ruin Logan for me? Is this going to like be a slap in the face as someone who cries every single time I think about Logan? But it like went even further and acknowledged that is the emotion that people are feeling, and that it is kind of in poor taste that they're making the jokes that they're making, and that ultimately helps sell it for me. It's just such a fun sequence. Like, rewatching it a second time, you can't not smile and laugh and listen to Bye 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 as it's playing. Like, it's just utterly delightful. But yeah, Aaron, what do you think?
I was more concerned with that part of this than the Logan being ruined, like ending me ruined, because like it's already so uniformly. I mean, it's one of the core jokes of the movie is that uniformly across the board, everybody thinks this is easily in like top comic book movie territory, and there's nothing you can really do. We're not gonna relitigate your legacy after you're done. I'm much more concerned with now for a large group of the audience that are younger. Bye 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 is that movie from Deadpool Wolverine. That's hard for me to deal with. It's 800% increase in streaming, and it's on the hot 100. I think it's at like it was at 42 last week, which I've been keeping track of that and the Madonna numbers because it's hilarious to me, where I'm like, we're in a real Michael Jordan is the man from the memes situation with Bye 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 in sync, which is not ideal. I'm like, whoo, I feel like dust.
For the audio listeners, Jamie just like put her head in her hands. Like, she's not happy to know that it might be the song from Deadpool and Wolverine now.
I just am thinking about how like Believer is now like a Shrek song.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like that's always like been, I grew up at an oldies radio station. So even though I was 11 when Shrek came out, like I'm still, even as 11, I'm like, this isn't a Shrek song. How dare we deface the monkeys? But that is weird to think about. I have to sit on that for a bit. But we'll always have Tony going, oh, they did the Backstreet Boys.
Wow, yo, flagrant. What is going on?
I was so offended. I was like, what did you just say? I failed you.
Wow. Cody, we
I will
better than
say,
that.
Aisha's in the chat, and she is pointing out, like, opening weekend, they did change, like, the Spotify listing and the YouTube listing for Bye Bye Bye
Yeah.
as, like, from Deadpool and Wolverine. So it's like they know what people are looking for, and they did want to capitalize on it. But yeah, it's going to be like both Believer and Hallelujah being Shrek songs at this point. Like, it's going to just transmutate into something else. As long as, for Jamie's sake, You're the One That I Want, it does not become that song from Deadpool and Wolverine, I think we're okay.
Oh, no.
No, honestly, that would be funny because, like, out of like, it's a musical. It's clearly a musical song. That clearly wasn't the breakout hit of Deadpool Wolverine. I'm okay with that because I got it. That was for me. They did it for me, and I appreciate it.
I love it. All right, well, and then our last story for today, just to kind of keep things very lighthearted. This is just kind of a fun quote. Glen Powell was on the Discourse podcast, and he talked about potentially joining the Marvel or DC universe. And he said, I've never gotten a call from DC or Marvel, but I'm a fan of everything they do. I just saw Deadpool and Wolverine. I freaking had a blast. I think what Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds did with that was extraordinary and just had such a fun flavor for audiences, and I cheer for them, and I love what they do. I think James Gunn, Peter Safran, and what they're doing at DC, I think that's going to be really, really good for that business. So it's like, yeah, I cheer them all on. I'm a big fan of the movies. I know he previously has said he was like, I'm not really interested in doing a big franchise thing or a superhero thing unless it's Batman, which is kind of funny. But it's like people took him being positive about the MCU and are now like, is he going to join the MCU? So what do you guys think?
I mean, he's the hot ticket right now, right? Like,
yeah.
he's the saucy main event of 2024. Love Glen Powell. I'm a Scream Queens girl. I've loved Glen Powell ever since he was on Scream Queens. And here's the thing. I'm sure if the money is right and the character is right, I'm sure that he would eventually do it. But he's got going on. He's got a Running Man remake. He's got a Backdraft remake. He's in the remake zone. He's in like the spiritual successor remake area of his career before he gets on to wearing the tights. But I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen or did happen. Like, he's got plenty of options. We'll see where he is 5 years from now.
Yeah.
I need to. All right, Glenn, call me up. I'm gonna make a movie for A24 called The Remake Zone.
Oh,
where he just is different characters in different remakes, and he's like he can't get out of like one room, and he keeps walking to different rooms. Call me up, bro. I think that man wants to be Batman.
Yes.
If you read these other interviews, that man wants to be Batman. He's all but banging on the door outside of James Gunn's office, like, please, Lord, let me be Batman. So we'll see if that happens. I know the fans want him to be like Booster Gold.
Mm-hmm.
I know one very high-profile former host of the show, a viewer would be like, man, Nova. Like, what's up? Like, so there's all sorts of options. And I think JK in the comments was like, I like money. Yes, that's also a part of this too. I'm sure that although he's not missing any meals, him and that adorable dog aren't missing any meals. That, what is it? Montana real estate is not cheap.
Or Austin, I know he's moving to Austin, Texas, because that's where he's like going to
Austin,
school.
okay.
Yeah, so
see, that's how he gets the money to go to Montana, is to go ahead and sign on Marvel so he can have his giant ranch.
Yeah. Well, and I know like people in the chat are saying, and I know this has been prevailing for a while, of like, what if he were to play Cyclops? Which, like, I could see that working. He's a little too tall for Cyclops in my mind, just based on like how I usually categorize Scott. But I could see that working better than like some of the fan cast that people.
Don't make me hate Glen Powell.
I thought you liked our boy now. I thought the finale helped you like him a little bit more. I thought it steered you in the right direction.
It steered me a little. You can't. I'm not just a Cyclops stan all of a sudden.
Oh man.
I as evident by the fact that I have Jamie's Cyclops merch in my house right now because she didn't want it in her home. So I'm aware. But yeah, who knows? I feel like it's inevitable that he will join some sort of superhero thing, but I agree. I feel like it'll be something where the money will be right, the character will be right, and he will be super excited about it. The chat's like Adam is like Starjammers, which that would also be fun. That would also be super fun. But Ryan Reflects is like Glen Powell as Mystique, but it's just him in full Hitman mode. That would be funny. That would be very funny. Highly recommend watching Hitman if you have not already, just to see him do his best Tilda Swinton and Patrick Bateman impressions, because those are so much fun. But yeah, so I think that's it for our stories on this week's Phase Zero. This has been quite an episode. Like, I will never forget doing this episode, honestly. And I'm so thankful that the chat has been as supportive as it is. We see all of you. We love all of you. We really appreciate you joining us on this journey and being with us all of these 4 years. Because again, we would not still be sitting here right now if it wasn't for you guys supporting us all of this time. So.
Man.
Yes.
Oh yeah! Shout out to new rock stars in the comments for like saying hello and offering their support. I love you guys. Like Eric, just lurking in the background. He's like going through Alien Romulus footage as we speak. Do another video or something. No spoilers. Because Jamie, have you seen it yet? Oh yeah, I forget. I'm gonna shut up.
I still haven't seen it. I have gotten rid of 4 tickets. I've had tickets for 4 different showtimes in the last week, but terrible things keep happening. Other things keep happening. I'm going tonight. If I don't see Alien Romulus today, that's it. I'm walking into the sea. Tonight is my night to see Alien Romulus.
It feels like karmically wrong that I have seen Alien Romulus before you. Like, that does not feel right in any universe.
Right.
The fact that Aaron has seen it before you, and Aaron doesn't even like scary stuff, like that is, I am so sorry. I really hope you get to see it tonight, because I definitely want to know your reaction.
Wait, what?
I know.
Richard, put it on the screen. You know what I'm talking about. Put him on the screen.
Yes. So Brandon did comment. He says, great show today, Jenna, Jamie, and Aaron. Love you all. Massive thanks to everyone who supported another great episode of Phase Zero and support the big three, the best community and the best Marvel show. Heart emoji. So we love you, BD. Like I said, he would be here supporting us, cheering us on. So I'm so glad to see that. I know he literally was just on a plane right now. So I love that he immediately jumped in.
Yeah, BD, we love you so much. Like, that's proof. Like you guys, I would be like, nope. Like, he's just like, seriously, he's a good dude. Like, truly, and he's a big man to come in here and still support us, because, like, again, this show is his baby. He created this show, and the fact that it's not fair. It's not right or fair. It's not right. But here's the thing, everybody. BD's gonna be fine. I have full faith that BD is on to amazing things. So keep an eye out for sure.
Yeah, and we will be cheering him on with whatever those things look like. But yeah, all right, Aaron, is there anything you would like to leave the listeners with on today's show?
Oh goodness, it's at Similik Hornet. Thank you guys all for the nice message. Even while we've been sitting here, I looked over my phone. I'm like, dear God, what is going on? Shout out to BD using the airplane Wi-Fi to watch, because that is insane. Also, 28 days until Jamie's Super Bowl. 28 days until Agatha All Along.
Yes. She's already wearing her Catherine Hahn merch. She's ready to go.
Let's go. We're doing, I don't know when we're starting to rewatch, but we're doing that too.
We're gonna figure out scheduling.
We took the password, we took the keys away. We're doing WandaVision rewatch. Forget it.
It was gonna happen regardless, but now it is definitely happening, because I also think it'll be a nice, like, full circle kind of moment as we're in this new era to kind of go back to WandaVision. Also, because I just have not rewatched it since it aired, so I'm very excited to do that.
This will be my 10th WandaVision watch. So let's go.
Are you at the point where you can, like, quote entire scenes, like, full stop?
Probably not. I'm not, like, I have to really sit down and, like, memorize something to learn the lines. Like, I can do a lot of Quentin Tarantino speeches because in high school I memorized them, but my brain isn't that good.
That's fair. But yeah, I will say, to Aaron's point, we are going to do a WandaVision rewatch. We're going to start scheduling all of that very soon. We have spotlight episodes potentially in the pipeline that we're currently in the process of getting sorted out, so that should be fun. And we will be back with Wednesday shows. Like, we're not going anywhere. We will still be here at 11 a.m. Central Time. But yeah, Jamie, is there anything you would like to leave the listeners with today?
I just want to say once again, thank you for your support. I was certain we were all, I think, a little nervous today, and to see how kind you all were in the comments is a definite boost. It makes me feel better. Also, I just want to say, if we're talking about things that pissed us off this week, how are you going to cancel The Acolyte?
The chat had that whole conversation while we were talking, and it did not feel right to bring it up, but fully agree with you, Jamie. I wrote an article on the website about how it deserved so much better than it got. It is so frustrating. On Manny Jacinto's birthday.
How dare. Like, this week, seriously, like, the ups and downs of this week are giving me whiplash. But I will say, one up of this week is I got to interview Brandy and Catherine Hunter, 2 icons, legends. So keep an eye out for those interviews for the front room. you guys aren't ready for the front room. It's the most disgusting movie I've ever seen. And I enjoyed it. So keep on keeping on.
I love it. All right. I am at Hey, it's Jenna Lynn on social media. As always, go read some comics. As we were saying on the show, just start reading Fantastic Four Volume 1. It's dense, it's very wordy, but you will have a great time. And I can guarantee that it will be a huge influence on First Steps. Also, the Jonathan Hickman and Matt Fraction runs are also very, very good. Like there are very few bad Fantastic Four runs. Like you can start anywhere and have a great time, but like starting from the very beginning feels right with the movie. But yeah, there's also a new issue of Scarlet Witch this week. So I just have to shout that out to Jamie. It's a very good issue. And don't forget to follow the show at Phase Zero CB. I am now running the Twitter account, which is very weird and very scary. But we will try to keep you updated as big news comes out, as we post new shows. Just keep the Twitter account running. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on YouTube and on the podcast platform of your choice. As always, leave a 5-star review, and we will eventually read and talk about those if you ask a question. Play the show for your mom, play the show for your dog. We seriously love you guys so much, and thank you guys so much for continuing to join us on this journey. We will see you very, very soon. Bye.